Hello, welcome. Today we are going to be covering a verb tense review of the simple, progressive, and perfect tenses. So, I hope you're ready. That's 9 verb tenses we're going to be going through because as you know, verbs are really important words in English. In fact, they are probably the most important kind of word in the English language because you cannot have a single sentence without at least one verb. And every verb, basic tense, as in simple, progressive, perfect, etc., because we are not done yet, there will be more coming, just not today. All of those tenses have the 3 blocks of time of past, present, and future. So you have 9 different verb tenses to pay attention to and understand today. Of course, again, this is all review. You should already know all of this, so we're going to go pretty fast. Get those pencils ready, those notebooks open, and take some notes. All right, we're starting with the simple tenses. The simple tenses you should be very familiar with, and you should know that the simple past is a very important tense because the simple past defines whether or not a verb is regular or irregular. If you have a verb in the simple past and it ends in these 2 letters, ed, and there's a few different ways you can get there, but it will always end in these 2 letters, ed, you know that verb is... I'm just kidding, I can't hear you say it. It's regular! And you should all have said regular. It's a regular verb if it ends in ed in the simple past. If it does not end in ed in the simple past, it's irregular. You need to be able to identify regular and irregular verbs, especially moving forward. And especially when we get down here to the perfect tenses, and we'll recover that then. But now, the past tense is also important, the simple past, because it is the storytelling tense. Most of the times when you write stories, you're imagining as though something already happened, so you're probably going to be using the simple past tense most of the time. Now, the simple present tense is important because this is the tense where you always have to remember subject-verb agreement. Of course, anytime the be verb is involved, you pretty much always have to remember subject-verb agreement. But with every verb in the simple present, you need to have subject-verb agreement. The subject-verb agreement rule is pretty simple. If you have many subjects, many people, places, or things that you're talking about, or many ideas, then you need to make sure that the verb agrees, which means the verb will not have the S on it. It will be essentially the bare infinitive. Remember, the bare infinitive form of the verb is just a word that you would look up in the dictionary. However, if you are talking about one person, place, thing, or idea, if you have one subject, your verb will have an S in the simple present tense. The simple present tense is used to talk about things you do all the time. Remember, it's not to talk about what you are doing right now. We're going to cover that in just a moment. The simple future, pretty easy. The simple future, it has 2 ways to create the simple future. We can use be going to, and remember, if we're going to use that pesky be verb, you have to remember subject-verb agreement, even in the future tense. In fact, in pretty much all future tenses. So, am, is, are, going to, bare infinitive, okay? So, you could say, I am going to continue teaching this video. There's not much else I'm going to do right now. I'm dedicated to finishing this now that I've started. Anyway, future tense, that's what I'm going to do. I could also say, will be plus the verb. Remember, it's the bare infinitive. The word that you would look up in the dictionary, the imaginary dictionary. I'm holding in this hand right here. I keep flipping through the pages. Are we done yet? We're not even close to done. We're just getting started. Okay, so now that we've covered the simple tenses, let's move on to the progressive tenses. Remember that the progressive tenses can also be called continuous tenses. They are called the continuous or the progressive tenses because they take an action and they stretch the action over time. All of the verb, the progressive or the continuous verb tenses have to start with the be verb. If the be verb is not involved, it's not a tense, it's not a verb, it's being used as like a gerund or a participle, which I hope you know about. We're going to talk about it later anyway when we get down here to the perfect tenses, but for right now, just remember, the progressive or continuous tenses have the be verb plus the verb ending in ing. And this verb thing here, well, I shouldn't say it's the bare infinitive, because if the verb ends in an E, you gotta take the E off and then add ing. You should know how to add ing to words. I mean, really, if you don't know how to do that by now, what have we been doing? Let's look at the past progressive. Was, were, verb, ing. Pretty easy. You're talking about something in the past that happened over time. With the present progressive, same thing. Is, am, are, plus verb, ing, and it's something that I am doing right now, okay? So it's a continued action in the present. This is how you talk about things you are doing now. Because things we are doing now don't happen in a moment. They happen over time. In the future, is, am, are going to be, or will be, verb, ing, okay? And again, this is talking about something you will be doing over time tomorrow, or sometime in the future. Pretty easy. So the progressive continuous tenses, all you have to remember, be verb plus verb, ing. So that brings us to the perfect tenses, which as far as I'm concerned are far from perfect. They're some of the hardest tenses to get a hold of. I mean, they're just so complicated. A lot of teachers will teach perfect tenses in different ways. One of the ways that I like to teach it is by telling students whenever you use a perfect tense, you are stepping outside of time. You're stepping outside of the here and now, and you're thinking, first and foremost, about you being in the past, present, or future, and then talking about different time effects within those chunks of time. If that sounds confusing, bear with me as we go through it. So, first, we have the past perfect. The past perfect tense, in fact, all the perfect tenses, if you'll see right here, all of the perfect tenses are going to use the past participle of the active verb in the sentence. So this is where the simple past tense becomes really important. Because if you don't know whether a verb is regular or irregular, you will be at a disadvantage in terms of figuring out the past participle. Regular verbs are easy. The past doesn't change. The simple past is the same as the past participle if the verb ends in those two letters, ed. However, if the verb is irregular, if the verb doesn't end in ed in the simple past, it may look totally different as a participle. And this is right now just one of those lists you gotta start to memorize. You have to think. Write, wrote, written. Bite, bit, bitten. Read, read, read. Run, ran, run. All of these different verbs, all of these irregular verbs, they don't follow many patterns. We'll get to that maybe in a later video, but for now, just memorize some past participles. All of the perfect tenses also start with the verb to have in some way, shape, or form. So that is the verb that will change whether it is past, present, or future. Since the active verb is always going to be in the past participle form, the change of past, present, future is going to be the change of this verb, have. So in the past perfect, it's had plus past participle. In the present perfect, it's have or have. Remember, you have to remember subject-verb agreement in the present perfect tense, plus the past participle. In the future, is, am, are going to plus have, or will plus have, okay? And then the past participle. Now, these verbs, I talked about you sort of stepping outside of time. Well, when you're using the past perfect verb, you're talking like you're in the past and you're putting events in order, okay? So if I say, I had been teaching 3 years before I came to IQ, okay, I'm giving you events in order. I had been teaching for 3 years before I came to IQ. Some people like to refer to the past perfect as the past of the past. I generally like to refer to the past perfect as just identifying time order of 2 or more events in the past, okay? The present perfect is to talk generally about something that you notice in the present that is a result of an action in the past. So for example, if I look around and I go, the window has been broken. It means somebody broke the window at some time in the past. I don't know the exact time in the past. Maybe I don't care about the exact time in the past. I just know it happened in the past, and I'm referring to it now. It's also a way to refer to actions that you have had in the past by simply answering the question, have you ever? There's a fun game that we like to play in English class, never have I ever, but we usually change the verbiage to make it a little easier for you and just say I have or I have not, past participle, and you can play this game with your friends and practice the present perfect tense. The future perfect tense. I am going to have saved some money by the time I'm a little older, I hope. I haven't saved much money yet, but maybe in the future I will have saved. So you can see that I'm projecting my imagination into the future and then imagining something happening in the past to catch up with where I've projected myself to be. I don't know if you saw my hand there. It's in the future. It's outside the screen. But I'm getting there, okay? So the idea of the future perfect tense is to project yourself and then try to imagine or remember what will have happened by the time you get to that point. I hope that helps. Now let's review.
Verb tenses review. Simple, progressive, perfect. Why is the simple past tense of a verb important? It is important because it defines whether or not a verb is regular or irregular, and it is the storytelling tense. When do we use the simple present tense? To talk about things you do all the time, habits. What is subject-verb agreement? If the subject is singular, the verb must be plural or have an S at the end. If the subject is plural, the verb is used in the infinitive. Why are progressive verb tenses also called continuous? They take the action and stretch it out over a period of time. What do all of the progressive verb tenses have to begin with? All of the progressive verb tenses have to begin with the be verb before adding another verb plus ing. When do we use the present progressive tense? To talk about things that we are doing right now. What do all of the perfect verb tenses have in common? All of the perfect tenses use the verb to have and the past participle form of the verb. What does the past participle form of regular verbs look like? They look just like the verb in the simple past tense. What does the past participle form of irregular verbs look like? They can look very different from the simple past tense, so you have to memorize them.